Hi, my name is Tristan with Old English Outfitters, and today we will be talking about the MCX Spear. So as you're all probably aware, Sig Sauer recently was awarded the NGSW contract for the Sig Spear, basically the program to replace the M4. Now we're not really going to cover that in today's video. We're just really going to go over the features of the rifle itself and how it shot. Starting at the muzzle, we have a proprietary 3-prong flash hider, suppressor QD for Sig Sauer's SLH and SLX suppressors. We did not have those available for this review. We used my Dead Air Sandman S 30 cal can. If you are interested, we are working on a review for this currently, so stay tuned. So one note about Sig's barrel, it does use a proprietary taper design for the muzzle device, so it's not a traditional shouldered barrel. If you want to use a muzzle device, say for a chemo or any other device out there, you'll have to get Sig's adapter to convert to a shouldered barrel. One really annoying thing about that, Sig does not include that in the box with this rifle. I don't know why. It's a $10 piece. Sig could easily add that in there, but the one we got for review did not have that at all. I happen to have one in hand, so it wasn't a big deal, but for a customer buying the rifle and has a suppressor and wants to use it, you kind of got to go on Sig's website or locate an adapter at a separate time, which is kind of annoying. We are working with a 16-inch 1-in-10 twist 308 barrel. The Sig Spear is available in a few other calibers such as 6.5 Creedmoor and 277 Sig Fury. But we only tested the 308 model. We had pretty acceptable accuracy. We weren't grouping on paper or anything like that. We were just kind of shooting steel, kind of testing combat accuracy. Pretty good when we were shooting everything from Winchester White Box to PMC to Federal 168 grains. So kind of a wide mix of ammo. We did get a chance to shoot the Spear at 300 yards. We put a Night Force 5-22 optic on there on a spur mount. Probably a little too much for that, but we had the chance and it was available, so why not? Once we got the rifle zeroed, hitting at 300 yards was pretty easy. Pretty consistent impacts, kind of no problem at all. You're using Federal 168 grains, so really good match grade ammo. Phenomenal accuracy. Like I said, we were not putting it on paper to get groups or anything like that. Just hitting steel silhouettes at 300 yards. Pretty good barrel overall. Now onto the gas system. We do have a 2-position gas regulator. So we have normal and suppressed. So it's on normal and you can switch it over to suppressed. Pretty easy just with your finger. If you shoot a few magazines, that will likely get pretty hot. So Sig included a hole in the design. So you could use a tool of some sort or 308 projectile fits nicely in there, so you can kind of make it a lever. And further back on the gas system, this is a piston system, similar to a lot of AKs out there. Generally just shoots a lot cleaner, a little bit more reliable. It's going to keep a lot of the gas up front, keep the upper receiver and the bolt carrier a lot cleaner. So that comes really in handy if you're shooting suppressed. Put it on the suppress setting with your suppressor. That's going to limit the amount of gas going back even more. As far as shooting suppressed, you have to keep in mind this is a 16-inch 308. 308's usually meant for a little bit longer of a barrel, so blowback was kind of to be expected. I am a left-handed shooter, so I was getting some of that right in the face. It wasn't too bad, but as soon as I tried to shoot a little bit more briskly, it definitely got in my face. Onto the handguard. We do have M-LOK kind of everywhere on this rail. There's a lot more up front, which is where you're going to have most lights and such. There is a steel insert QD on either side of this, about midway down the rail. A little bit further back, we do have additional set screws that are new to the MCX. These are to address the issues the Virtus and the Legacy MCX had, holding 0 for IR units. On the Virtus, you could get an Arasaka or similar aftermarket part to kind of clamp the upper receiver through the handguard, making it a little bit more secure and hold zero a little bit better. On the very back, on the left-hand side, you do have a plastic insert that is to prevent snagging from the side charging handle. So from a sling or your hand or anything, just gonna help kind of things go right over it. Speaking of charging handles, the MCX Spear has not one, but two. Anyone familiar with a AR-15 style rifle, we have our T handle. This is an ambi, and it is pretty good latches, pretty easy to actuate. Nothing to really complain about there. Pretty good out of the box. The other one we have, the new addition, is the side charging handle. So as you can see, it's on the left-hand side of the receiver. It is folding and non-reciprocating. All you have to do is, there's a little tab at the top, you pull that out and you can actuate it, just like that. So pretty easy stuff. The best application I could think of offhand would be shooting in the prone, and it did work pretty well for that. As a lefty, it is not the easiest to get to. You kind of have to come up like that. So not terrible, definitely more oriented for a right-hand shooter, but like I said, most shooters are right-handed, so it makes sense. At the moment, I have a Primary Arms Micro Prism 1X, but for most of the review process, I used an EOTech EXPS3 on a Unity riser, as well with a G33 magnifier. That's just tried and true. EOTech's been around a long time, well proven. I like them a lot. Are there better optics out there? Maybe. It just comes down to what you like and preference. As far as the lower goes, the most significant features to talk about or mention are the ambi features, and we have kind of all the usual suspects. So we have the ambi mag release, pretty easy to use. We have an ambi safety, left and right. On the right-hand side of the receiver, we do have a kind of PDQ style bolt hold open / release. And for a righty, you push up and lock it back like that, and you can push down to let the bolt go home. For a lefty, kind of use the traditional bolt catch, lock it back, and then when you insert your magazine, your thumb's just kind of in the right spot, and it works really well. So, works really well either way. The only ambi feature that I don't think is fantastic is probably the safety. It's a little stiff for my liking, and safety for the left-hand thumb is very short, and the body of the Sig safety is pretty rotund and kind of gets in the way. With prolonged use, you can develop a blister. Ask me how I know. But it is nice to have an ambi safety out of the box, even though if it is not the best, it is still an ambi safety, so that is better than most rifles. So let's talk about the trigger included with the Spear. It's called the Matchlight Duo. It is a 2-stage trigger, similar to many Geisley triggers or a LaRue MBT. Is it as nice as those? Probably not, but out of the box, this trigger is really good. Pretty crisp break. Not super light, it's still a combat style trigger, but I would say it is way beyond like a mil-spec trigger. So the internal recoil mechanism is reminiscent of a Kalashnikov style rifle and an AR-180. It's kind of a mashup of those two families of rifles. The bolt carrier itself, very AR-180-ish, looks like an abbreviated AR-15. It just does not have the back half. You don't have a traditional buffer system, so it's not necessary. You don't need as much reciprocating mass. Like I already said, this does not use a traditional buffer system, and because of that, we have a Picatinny section on the rear with Sig's hinge folder. One note about this folder, it is a little bit updated than from the Virtus or the Gen 2 MCX. The Virtus style, you would just pull up and it would flip over. This one has a button. It is a little bit harder to depress. It's kind of hard to press it and lift up at the same time without kind of bracing the rifle. It's a little stiff. So it's not as easy to deploy. It is most likely a more robust system since it is locking. Rear of that, we do have a buffer attachment, which you can use any M4 style stock you want, and there are a ton. The one it comes with is a Magpul SLM. I don't know why, but the last few years it seems Sig has been absolutely obsessed with finding the smallest stock and putting it on their largest rifles. I think the inclusion of the SLM is a bit questionable. Since it's so small on a large rifle, when I went to shoot it, it would kind of want to ride up my shoulder, so I had to kind of fight to keep the rifle in line. I did end up putting a B5 SOP mod stock on there in Coyote Tan, kind of matched. And that did fix a lot of the issues. It shot a lot better. The recoil impulse was just a lot smoother. Didn't have to fight the rifle at all. The only issue with that particular combo is when you went to fold the stock, didn't quite want to fold all the way because of the big battery compartments. Now you may be asking yourself why you would want to buy an MCX Spear in 308 compared to an AR-10. While the AR-10 is a very good platform, has been tried and true, the MCX Spear has a few more tricks up its sleeve that I think kind of take it over the edge. While the AR-10 platform is modular, there's not really one pattern. There's like 3 or 4 known patterns. So parts interchangeability is a little spotty unless you know what you're doing. It's not quite as plug and play as the AR-15 where everything is kind of made to one spec. So one thing the MCX Spear has going for it is its modularity. While the AR-10 is modular, the MCX Spear takes it to the next level, kind of edging out the AR-10 in that front. You have a quick change barrel system. You have replaceable components such as the cam path, the brass deflector. You have 2 roll pins for the T-handle, all parts that wear down on a typical AR receiver. So that's going to keep the MCX going for a lot longer. You can replace those parts over time, many times. A lot of those are steel components, so they're going to hold up a lot longer than a typical aluminum receiver anyway. But the fact that they are replaceable is really nice. So in many aspects, the MCX Spear is kind of an evolution of the AR-10 platform. There are just a lot of upgrades overall from top to bottom that I would say are better quality of life than a typical AR-10. One last thing. So the price of the MCX Spear is a hefty one for sure. But for that price, about $4,200, you are getting a heck of a rifle with a lot of unique features, and the way they're implemented are done very well. So it's going to be a shooter. It's going to work and work and work, and you can replace a lot of components fairly easily. On the other hand, if you know anything about Sig Sauer, they love to revise their designs and implement rolling changes through production. So from a collector's standpoint, this one is the original design. It is the military XM7 rifle, sans the barrel and caliber. So it is in the original configuration. It is going to be more collectible and hold its value over time because of that. Guys, that pretty much sums up my thoughts on the Sig Spear. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe, and again, I'm Tristan with Old English Outfitters, and we will see you next time.